Hey everybody, it's Joe Vizio here. I know, you know what I'm going to say. Yeah, it's been a while since I've done this. In all actuality, I've tried to make a couple videos, but I usually end up getting interrupted, and I've kind of been in my own little funk as well. Been busy with work. I've got a couple opportunities floating around that I've been working on, and getting that extra room all demonetized. I've ripped out all the carpet, painted the walls, and I put a laminate floor in there, and my wife started decorating things up a little bit in there, trying to make it hers, which it's been working out pretty good. Things with me and my wife have kind of calmed down a lot. So things have been on the right track. I've just kind of been in my own funk. But that's alright. I know we all get that way sometimes, and I know you all understand exactly what I'm talking about. So, everybody in my house is sick right now. I'm a little sick myself, but I can actually, almost feel my body's immune system really fighting this thing off. As I'm really fatigued, but I haven't gotten it nearly as bad as what my wife has. She's got full-blown bronchitis. My daughter's hanging in there. She's been probably a little bit less than what I feel. I gotta get my ass to work, so So I'm done for my night. I'm on my way home, and I want to get into, how that trip went, because there's some things in there that I really want to talk about, but this isn't going to be the video for that. I kind of just want to tell a story. There's something going on with a friend of mine, and I hope that this story kind of helps them out. And it's just a story from my life. And I've made videos about this, but if you're kind of new to watching me, or you go through some of my videos, I'm kind of a long-winded person, so you might get halfway through one of my videos and get bored or something like that. I understand and accept myself for who I am, so I'm just telling you the truth. So I don't expect anybody to go back. So usually if I say something that's going to, was covered before, I'll mention that, but, if I'm repeating myself, so be it. But, I was probably just 13 and a half years old, let's say. My mom kind of ran off and stopped contacting me and my sister to kind of live her own life and do her own thing. She always tells us that she had a breakdown, but breakdowns don't last that long. Usually, a little while you get in touch with yourself, and then you try and go back and maybe correct some wrongs, especially if those wrongs were to your own children. I think that would be first and foremost. But, you know, sometimes everybody deals with things different ways. But I didn't, my mother didn't, well, I'm the one that actually made the contact. And had I not made contact, you know, who knows how long it would have went on. But I was probably 16 and a half years old when the next time I made contact with my mother. And right around that time, as a 16-year-old young man, you know, I was going through a lot of things myself. Some things I didn't understand, like the narcissism that had plagued my family, the brutality, narcissistic ways of my father. I mean, that just, it all didn't make sense to me at that time when I was 16 and a half years old. And, you know, right around that time, you know, my little girlfriend had broken up with me. And I tell you, I was crazy insane about this girl. And as, you know, the adults that were around me in my life, you know, kind of sum it up as, you know, that's all puppy love, and, you know, this happens and it'll get over it and blah, blah, blah. Like my grandmother would tell me, women are like a bus. When you miss one, there'll be another one along in 10 minutes. You know, all that kind of stuff just really wasn't helping me. You know, it wasn't the magic elixir that was going to make me spring up out of my depression. And, you know, and that coupled with everything else. I mean, you know what it's like growing up with narcissistic parents. You know, you don't have a self-esteem. You know, things that happen, it's your fault. And, you know, I mean, I was a 16-year-old boy. I was already awkward, and, you know, long story short, I had a lot of shit going on. So, a few months after, you know, talking to my mother on the phone, you know, with as hard as the first rejection was when she shipped me off to live with my father, as hard as the second rejection was when she stopped just contacting me, you know, I thought that was the answer that I needed. And I made the announcement that I was done with my father's bullshit. I needed to get away from all that memory I had of my little girlfriend that had broken up with me. I wanted to go live with my mother. I was perfectly fine with, you know, leaving a nice big 4-bedroom house that I was living in with my father. I mean, not that I had anything. I mean, in my bedroom, I had a roll-away cot that I slept on and a dresser. So I didn't, you know, but I had opted to leave all that to go live in a rundown 2-bedroom trailer with my mother and her diagnosed paranoid schizophrenic boyfriend. And, you know, my father really couldn't understand why I wanted to do that. I mean, he really wasn't looking at what I was going through. He just kind of looked at what the differences of where she lived, where he lived. The fact that she had already rejected me twice, and I always say I have to give my father that much credit. You know, at least he didn't ship me off anywhere. I mean, at least not until I got of age. You know, he didn't abandon me. So he was having a hard time understanding why I was just going to up and leave like that. And me being a 16-and-a-half-year-old boy that was already afraid of him, I didn't know how to tell him the truth of why I really wanted to do that. That I needed to find out from my mother why. I needed to clear my head of this girl. I needed to get myself out of the situation that I was in with my peers, with my enemies, with everything. And I had some pretty good friends at that age. I have friends that I'm still in contact with today. And memories that I would never trade for anything in the world. But it was just felt like something that I had to do. It felt like that I needed to go and maybe hide from maybe what I was ashamed of in myself. Be it ashamed of things from my own doing. Ashamed of things that were done to me that maybe I didn't understand fully at that point. But I just needed to go. It was a pretty rough time in my life. And to be honest with you, my decision on what I wanted to do had only made things rougher. Had only turned me out to be more confused and ashamed than what I already was. I didn't last long over at my mother's house. I had actually, I guess I wanted to kind of push a reset button on my social life, and that I did. That I actually stumbled myself into that real popular, and if you're from my age, you'll understand this reference. I ended up into that 90210 crowd and was partying with the hoity-toities, and as far as that was concerned, I was living the life. But as far as myself and trying to understand myself and my parents and what had happened, I had only ended up into another downward spiral. And the straw that had broken the camel's back for me, and this was kind of covered in another video. I was out partying it up with my friends, and one of the parties that we were at got busted up by the police, and everybody kind of scattered their own way, and I got separated from my crowd, and just ended up getting a ride over to where my friend lived, which was just kind of right across the field from the trailer park that I lived in. But my friend hadn't made it back to the home base just yet. And according to my mother and her boyfriend, I wasn't supposed to be home at night. I had cleared myself for the night by saying that I was staying over at my friend's house, so they had no idea that I was going to climb myself into the window and crawl in bed, which is exactly what I did. And when I did that, my mother and her boyfriend were in the bathroom, which was the wall backing right up to the wall where I had my bed. This was a trailer. The walls were very, very thin. And I can hear the conversation that they were having. And I remember my mother saying how much stress she's under. And I remember her boyfriend saying, and I quote, because this rings out in my head, "It's that little fucker Joey. It's him. He's causing all of this." And then I hear my mother's voice say, "Well, you're the one that invited him here to live with us. I didn't want him to come." That's all I needed to hear. I was kind of lit anyway. Long night of pounded down the bush beers. So I remember I put the pillow over my head and just went to sleep. The next morning I did question my mom about that conversation, which, you know, I was a little eavesdropper and I didn't hear it right and I took it out of context and I was wrong and maybe it's best I go stay with my father, which, you know, I had kind of already made that decision that I needed to go back with my father. So I hope that kind of helps you as you're going through a little bit of a tough time. And for everybody out there, you know, we may see our kids and, you know, I guess if you're my age, you know, you might start to have grandchildren. I don't have any of them yet, but I know a lot of my friends have kids all the way up into their 20s, all the way down in their teens. I guess I'm one of the rare few that I still have one under 5. But I'm really glad that I'm learning the things that I'm learning now, because it really, I think it's going to help me to be a good father, especially when it counts. I mean, now the development stage and playing toys and teaching ABCs and all that, that's going to be great. But it's going to take a special kind of understanding when I have a teenage girl standing in the middle of my house telling me to screw myself because she wants to go to a concert with her boyfriend named Spike that has a mohawk and 16 earrings in his nose. So hopefully this kind of helps some of us out there to try and reach down and remember what you went through. Remember how you felt, even if you don't understand, even if you can't, you know, boy, you need to pull your damn pants up. I can look at that as some of the elders in my time going, boy, why don't you get them ripped pants off, and why you gotta wear that Metallica t-shirt everywhere? It's kind of the same difference. What's that thing from Mike and Mechanics? Every generation blames the one before. Well, I guess there's some things that rightfully get blamed, but we all kind of go through that stage that, oh, them kids and their music, you know, it's life. So I'll probably be back out doing some videos here shortly. I got a couple work projects that are kind of teetering on that edge, and all kinds of pressures going on right now, so my mind's kind of all over the place. But you know, I appreciate anybody that's kind of catching up on old videos, and anybody that's kind of been commenting and wishing me well, and I appreciate that from all of you. And I thank you for your time.